Alright, so I want to make a video kind of specifically for the guys who don't understand what men go through. You could call them beta men, you could call them white knights, you could call them orbiters, or maybe they're just ignorant guys. Maybe they're younger guys, maybe they have had a good mother, maybe they had a good sister. Not saying that doesn't happen. But guys who haven't been through the ringer, guys who haven't been taken to divorce court, guys who haven't been cheated on, guys who haven't had a baby with a slut, guys who haven't had a baby with a mother who was really shitty and who wouldn't let the father see the kid, guys who haven't been taken advantage of, walked on, used. You just don't know. You don't know what we go through. You don't know what we've been through. You don't know how hard it is to find a good woman. A lot of guys out there, I don't say a lot of guys, but some guys out there get lucky. They just get lucky. They find a decent girl and they get married early on, or they get into a long-term relationship, and for whatever reason they just get lucky. And I talk to these guys every once in a while. They just don't understand. They're just not out in the real world. Like, you can't let someone like Jordan Peterson, for instance, who got married when he was like 18 or 19, met his wife and fell in love with her when he was like 12 or some shit like that, had a classic, true love relationship life, and just doesn't have any understanding of what men go through. But even somebody like Jordan Peterson, with his intelligence, he's able to objectively listen to what men go through, and to some good extent he's able to empathize. He can't sympathize because he hasn't been through it, but he can empathize. So my advice to these guys who don't have any experience with bad women, who don't understand why men are going mgtow, who don't understand why men feel disenfranchised with women, who don't understand male suffering when it comes to interpersonal relationships between men and women, my advice to you is to be objective and stop looking at your subjective experience and thinking, this is all there is to it, and this is how it must be. That's a very insulated worldview. It's a very closed off way of looking at life. So listen to what men are saying. Listen to what men are complaining about. Listen to what men are talking about. Everything that is being said in the red pill manosphere, in the red pill arena, comes from experience. Okay, it's not the same thing as feminism. MGTOW men and red pill men are being pigeonholed into that same category as feminists. Like, the feminists are the ugly, bitter women who have been rejected by mainstream men, have been rejected by society, mainstream male society, as far as being deemed undateable, and so they're just mad and they hate men. That's not necessarily even that true for feminists. That's not necessarily the case, although it is often the case. It's not necessarily always the case. A lot of women claim to be feminists because they do believe in classical feminism, and they're duped to not really have all the statistics and all the knowledge, the current knowledge, against a lot, what a lot of these women are fighting for. A lot of women claim to be feminists because they like the perks, they like the benefits, they like the fact that they can kill their baby and nobody cares. They like the fact that they can divorce a man and take half his money. They like all these evil things that the left and feminism, modern radical feminism, uplifts, which are, totally in addition to any of the old school classical feminism, which is just basic female rights, which I agree with. However, what have women done with those rights? However, how have they turned their back on men? How have they stabbed us in the back? How have they deviated from regular morality? How have they deviated from regular, traditional wholesomeness? Did they ever have those things? But everything that we talk about comes from experience. We know women are hypergamous because they choose men for our money. They choose the men with the best nest, the best resources. Not always, but this is part of their criteria. This is part of their motivation. How do we know women cheat? Because we've experienced it. How do we know women don't take accountability for cheating? How do we know women don't take accountability for many things that they do? Because we've experienced it. We've been through those scenarios. We've had women lie to us and cheat on us and blame us and say it was our fault that they cheated or this, that, and the third. How do we know all these red pills? Because we've experienced them. So instead of looking at us and being like, oh, you guys are losers, you guys are incels, you guys are the betas of the male community, why don't you take you compare and contrast what we're saying and take a little bit of a deeper look at what we're talking about, instead of just saying, oh, because you don't have a girl, or you don't have a wife, or you decided to walk away, that really it's just because women don't want you. No. Most of the men in the mgtow community, the red pill community, have gone through experiences of being shitted on. Being shitted on by women in one way or the other. And unfortunately, we don't all get lucky. We don't all get lucky and find a unicorn. They're out there. I'm not full mgtow monk. I don't fully believe that every woman is corrupt. I believe that female nature is a certain way in most women. But I believe there's exceptions. So I'm not fully that way, but I recognize the patterns and I recognize the experiences that I've had in my own life. And enough to the point where I realize that the red pill truths are true. Things that I talk about are true. They happen. It's mainstream. It's the way women are. But if you got lucky, if you found one that wasn't that way, or you just happened to luck up in high school and meet the love of your life, and you guys have never got divorced, and she's never cheated, and she's treated you great, it happens, but it's rare. But if you're one of these rare guys, understand that you are lucky. It's rare. Most of us guys out here, we're taking what we can get. They're damaged goods, they're used goods, they're single moms, they got STDs, they got a slutty, long history, of using men, things like that. So take heed to what we're saying and understand that we're not just saying it because we hate women. We're not just saying it because we're disenfranchised in the sense that we've been rejected and this, that, and the third. We've been through the dating game. We know what it is. We know how women operate. We know what motivates them. And a lot of what we talk about is trying to save you guys from that, trying to save the younger guys, the younger generation from that. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to do that because guys tend to not want to listen to things like that. Not to say you should never date or you should never, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you should never find a woman. I'm not saying you should never trust any woman. I'm saying that it's very difficult, very hard to find. And you can learn better ways and learn how to find better women if you take heed to some of the things that we say. That's all. We're not trying to dissuade, at least I'm not trying to dissuade people from ever interacting with women again, or go full mgtow monk, or else you're a beta, or else you're a pussy panderer or whatever. There's guys out there like that, and I say don't listen to those guys. I'm saying, men need women. It's just we need quality women. And unfortunately, in this day and age, in this generation, we're not producing quality women. The parents are not pumping out and raising and producing quality daughters, quality girls. They're letting these girls raise themselves. They're letting Hollywood raise their daughters. They're letting Kim Kardashian and Beyonce and Rihanna and the slutty slutters and the porn culture raise their daughters. That's the generation we live in. That's the era that we live in. And the fathers are not fathers. They're not real men. These guys are often betas. They come from the generation, the 70s and the 80s, this generation where women stab men in the back. They took their freedom from the 1930s and 40s that we gave them, the 19th Amendment. They took their rights, so-called, and they stabbed us in the back. 30, 40 years later in the 70s and 80s, when all these women started divorcing their men. And now we have an epidemic of single mothers. Now we have an epidemic of sluts. Now we got an epidemic of porn stars. Now we got an epidemic of little Kim Kardashians running around out there. These young women don't know how to love a man. They don't know how to treat a man right. Build him up and support him and go through life with him, giving him love and affection. They don't know how to do that. All they know how to do is take and take and take and be narcissistic and be slutty, and they're real good at that. And they know how to look for a man with resources and use him and this, that, and the third, and then divorce him and all this. This is what they're doing. This is why we have the red pill. This is why guys are going mgtow. Understand that. That's the point. That's the purpose of all this. This isn't vitriol. This isn't revenge. This isn't, we were just rejected. Not at all. Problem is, it's hard to find a quality woman in the first place, let alone court her and everything goes smooth and fall in love and stay together, particularly if she's attractive, when she's got guys hitting her up left and right. We live in a over-sexified generation, over-sexed young generation that is not safe in their sexuality. A lot of pitfalls, man. A lot of harm, a lot of harshness going on out there. So understand that to these guys who think we're all losers and think that, it's natural selection. You guys are just weeding yourselves out. Maybe, or maybe you guys are just settling for trash. Maybe we have higher standards than you. Maybe we have higher standards than these guys who are like, you don't get to reproduce, dude. Like, reproduction is the greatest thing. Well, what about the quality of your reproduction? What about the quality of the children you're raising? You're going to get a quality child with a slut who's been used 200 times? She's got STDs and she's got porn out there and this, that, and the third. Are you going to have anything quality from that experience? Probably not. You're probably not going to raise good kids. And I don't even know if this generation cares. I don't even know if this generation understands what a quality child is. So it's a cold game. It's a messed up game, but it's a reality that we're living with, and we got to figure out a way to either fix it or figure something out. And what a lot of guys have done, and they're figuring, is I'm just going to walk away from this. I'm going to spend time on my own. I'm going to look for my own happiness, etc., etc. And however that plays out, they've decided to be individuals. So, it's a product of what women have become. It's not these guys are just the losers. No, not at all. It's a reaction to what women have become. In fact, I would say the opposite. I would say these guys have standards, and because of their standards, they're disappointed, and that's why they're walking away. They've chosen to walk away because of their standards. But anyway, I just want to put that out there, and I wanted to talk about that for a second. Appreciate you listening. It's been Jay Lee, Northwest Podcast. Peace.